Hi, this is Jeannie from Trendy Tree. Today's tutorial is not a typical wreath making or flower arranging craft, but I'm going to show you how to make a face mask out of a bandana. Now, I have several face mask tutorials out there that shows you how to make a cloth mask. Sorry, my dog is barking. Let me get one that shows you how to make a cloth mask with strings or one with elastic, and even how to make a paper towel mask, and I'll give you the links for that. But the question I've been getting is, tell me how to make a face mask when I don't have a sewing machine. Of course, not everybody has a sewing machine, I understand that. So I'm going to take a bandana today, and I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to hand sew it just using a needle and thread. So let me zoom in a little bit closer so you can see better. Today our tutorial is going to be to show you how to make a face mask out of a bandana with shoestrings and hand stitched, no sewing machine. And I just wanted to let you know that we do have tutorials also on our page, the Trendy Tree page, that shows you how to make a face mask and how to make cloth strings, how to use shoestrings and sew those in, how to do elastic, and this includes a nose piece, and that's just elastic. And then we also have one that shows you how to make one out of paper towels. This one is machine stitched with just extra pieces of shoestring, and this one is just stapled together with rubber band and staples. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so what we're going to use today is just a cotton bandana. It's 100% cotton, and you can get these at Walmart or the dollar store, places like that. It measures about a 21-inch square piece of cloth, and you do want to wash it before you start and iron it. It'll just be easier to work with. So we're just going to take it and lay it down, and we're going to fold it up 6 inches. You can use a ruler or yardstick to measure. You don't have to have a cutting mat. And since it's 21 inches in width, typically on my tutorials before, I said cut the material 6 inches by 9 inches. But what I'm going to do with this 21 inch is just half it. Just going to cut it down the middle. So I'm going to cut at the 10.5-inch mark. But first, let me go ahead and turn it this way and go ahead and cut that 6-inch strip. Now, this is not a sewing 101 class. You can take this other piece of material and make another mask. So you should be able to get 3 masks out of one bandana. So now I'm going to cut it at 10.5, thereabout. It doesn't have to be exact. So now we're ready to take our material and hand stitch it together. You're going to need just some sewing needles, or sewing needles. You'll just need one. I like to get one that's about kind of in the middle as far as the length, and I like to have one with a large eye because it makes it easier to thread. But that's inexpensive. You get that from Walmart. And just some sewing thread. I'm going to use white, so hopefully you can see it a little better. And I use a thimble too. I mean, that's just, you know, I haven't made anything in a long time, but when I used to hand hem something, I'd always use a thimble. So we're going to take our bandana and we're going to put our right sides together. Of course, this fabric is the same on both sides, but you can tell by the hemmed edge which is the right and the wrong side. So we're going to fold it and put the right sides together. Using the bandana with the hemmed edge will help, since you'll have less raveling. Now, we're going to need to stitch around the bandana, but we're going to need to leave an opening so that we can turn it. So I'm going to go ahead and you can pin it to make it easier for you to keep your edges straight. Before I do that, I was going to suggest, if you wanted to try a chenille stem for like a nose piece, if you wanted to, you could take that, open that back up and lay that in the fold and come back and stitch, you know, around this, around the chenille stem, kind of under it and on each end to keep it from coming out. I'm not going to do that today because it's going to take longer and I'm not sure that will work real well. It's just a thought. This is an experiment, but a lot of people had asked for a tutorial that didn't have a sewing machine, so I'm going to try to make this a little quicker if possible. So I've got the right sides together and I'm going to pin it. And I hope that you don't ever take a cloth face mask. Don't let it give you a sense of security. I mean, it's not going to stop a virus from going through. It's not going to, you know, it's not going to do that. It will only maybe help contain moisture droplets from your mouth should you cough, sneeze, or speak to someone. It's just a stopgap measure. Don't let it take the place of hand washing, distancing, please. And remember that you need to still keep your hands off your face. You can't have a face mask on and be fiddling with it all the time. You've kind of defeated the purpose of doing that. We're going to need some of using a face mask. If you put your face mask on and you're continually messing with it, that's bad. We're going to use a 45-inch shoestring. That one says 54, but what I picked up was a 45. We're going to need 2 shoestrings. And this is just adult shoestrings, and we'll lay those aside. Okay, so we're going to stitch around, we're going to stitch about a 1/4 inch around the edge of the 3 sides here. We don't have to stitch on this folded side, but we do need to leave an opening so that we can turn the mask. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stitch around that, and we're going to leave an opening right along here. It's a little easier to turn right there. And we're going to take our thread. I already had some thread on my needle. And I'm just using a single thread, not a double thread. Double thread gets knotted up really, really easy, so I just like to use a single thread. Okay, now we're going to start, I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm going to stitch about a 1/4 inch away from the edge. Stitch a couple of times there to get started good, and then I'm just going to make small stitches. You want to be sure that you want to pull your thread up snug, but you don't want to pull it so tight that it gathers. You don't want it to gather up. You just want it to be nice and flat. You want your stitches nice and flat. get to the corner, we're just going to turn, go down that side. I'm going to reinforce that corner with just an extra stitch or two. Now I'm going to leave an opening between these two pins. That will be where I can turn the fabric. So I'm going to put a little extra stitch there just to hold that. And then I'm just going to go over here to my next pin and start again. Now I'm going to clip that little string right there, but I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of stitches right there so that I have a good starting point. That way I don't have to stop and start, knot my needle and start again. So I can just clip that. Now then I'm going to continue sewing all the round to the corner and then up the side. Okay, now we're ready to turn the mask. We're going to go back to that opening. We're going to turn the mask right side out. You want to get those corners pulled out. If you need to, you can take scissors, something blunt. Don't want to put sharp scissors under there. A wooden spoon works good to slide it in that opening, and you can kind of push the corners out a little better. Just be careful that you don't push so hard you push a hole in it. Now we have that opening, and we'll need to close that at some point, but we don't have to close it right now. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to fold it in half. No, sorry. The next thing we're going to do is make the tucks, and we're going to make like 2 tucks. In some of the previous tutorials, I've done 3 tucks, but I think 2 works just as fine. You do want to keep your tucks all going in the same direction. So I'm just going to pin those. Tucks or pleats, whatever you want to call them. You're just folding the material over on itself. Just pin that. Helps it stay in place. Okay, and then we're going to stitch down this side. Now I've got to rethread my needle. Okay, so I've got all my tucks in the same direction. I'm going to start right down here at the bottom, and I'm going to go under that tuck to get my needle started, and that will just cover up my knot, which didn't hold. Hang on. Sometimes your knots will just come undone. Now I'm going to take my needle and go under that first tuck, and that will cover up my knot. And then I'm going to stitch about 1/4 inch away from the edge, and I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of stitches there to get a good starting point. I don't want that tuck to come undone. Okay. And then I'm going to continue stitching right up through that end. Then I get to the next tuck. Make sure I get a good deep bite there. You want to make sure you get through all your material. Just reinforce that a couple of times. And then I'm continue on to the top of the mask there. Oops. Hang on. My thread get tangled up. Reinforce that stitching a little bit there at the top. And now I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to go back down again. This is where a thimble helps, because that material is a couple of thicknesses there. Whoops, dropped my needle. This is probably the hardest part of the stitching that you'll have to do. Now when I get down to the bottom, I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom. I'm going to stop right there, but I'm going to reinforce that a couple more times. And then I'm going to stick my needle through, come to the back side, and I'm going to stitch up that side. That way if I missed anything, I'll catch it this time for sure. And anytime that I'm coming right up to the tuck, I'm reinforcing that with a couple of extra stitches. Might just help hold that. Well, I keep dropping my needle, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the other end. Okay, so now we've got our tuck stitched. So remember, we still have that little opening there, but we're going to close that. We're not going to have to do extra stitching for that. So we're going to fold the face mask and find our center point. And just put a pin in it to mark it. And then we're going to take our shoestring. And like I say, this is a 45-inch shoestring. You could use a 36 or 54, whatever you've got. But just find your center point of the shoestring. And we're going to pin that center point right there to the face mask. And don't stretch the shoestring, but just pin it along that edge. If you don't have a shoestring, you could use something like bias tape. That you get in the sewing department at Walmart or Michael's or Joann's. I just thought shoestring would be the easiest. Okay, so now we're going to take our needle and thread, and we're going to start on this end, and I'm going to go under the shoestring to cover up my knot. I'm going to go under the shoestring and put my needle in and pull up. Now I'm not going to pull, I'm going to pull my shoestring, pull the needle, the thread up to the where I see the knot, but if I pull on it very much, it's going to pull through that shoestring. So I'm going to stop, I'm going to go ahead and make another stitch right there. I'm not going to pull it real tight. I'm going to make 2 or 3 stitches before I ever start pulling my, getting my thread up too very snug, because it'll pull out. Okay, so once it feels like it's pretty secure, then I'm just going to go stitch the shoestring to the mask. It doesn't matter if you go right down the middle, or I'm probably going to go twice. So, if you kind of want to go down one edge of the shoestring and then come back down the other edge, that's fine. Keep the end of your shoestrings out of the way. It's easy to get tangled up, y'all. Okay, now we're going to do our other shoestring the same way. We're going to find our center point of the shoestring, fold the mask, find the center point, take the center point of the shoestring, pin it to the mask. Now I have to rethread my needle. So there you have it. Now, if you're stitching, if you're not comfortable with your stitching, you can always go back, go over these same areas and stitch again, just to reinforce it. And again, just don't take using a cloth face mask as a sense of security. You still need to wash your hands. You still need to stay 6 feet apart. We hope that you'll subscribe to our channel. If you're not familiar with Trendy Tree, Trendy Tree is my daughter Carrie and son-in-law David's website. And we sell all sorts of wreath making supplies. We have all kinds of wreath tutorials. We have the supplies for that, mesh, ribbons, and forms, and so forth, and all kinds of seasonal decorations and silk flowers. So subscribe to our channel, and there's a little bell somewhere thereabout on the front of the video, and you can click on that and you'll get a notification the next time we upload a new video. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.